Hello, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors. If everybody could please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Wasn't there a guy named Mike Crowley?
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Corpo, would you please call roll?
Mr. Kizak.
Here.
Ms. Hannah. Ms. Kane.
Here.
Ms. Payne. Here. Also in attendance tonight is Township Manager Ms. Tully Cools, Township Solicitor Mr. Esposito, Assistant Township Manager Mr. Valla, Township Engineer Mr. Kessler, Chief of Police Joseph Bartaroli, Director of Building and Zoning Jimenez, Director of Finance Mega Bandara, Superintendent of Public Works Eric Gardemeyer.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. Our next Board of Supervisors meeting is scheduled for Monday, February 5th, 2024 at 7 p.m. We have a few special items. First and foremost, we are honored and thrilled to have back with us tonight Dakota Yates here to sing the national anthem. Dakota is a senior at Neshaminy High School. Dakota, do you want to come on up?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
That was incredible. Thank you so much, Dakota. You're welcome back at any time. We're so happy to have you. We have one more round of applause for Dakota Yates. One more special item, and that is an announcement. The Teen Talent Competition will be Saturday, January 27th, 2024, and that'll be at the Oxford Valley Mall from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And that brings us to public comment. Is there any public comment? This is public comment on non-agenda items only.
Good evening. My name is Sheldon Post, Red Rose Gate. First, I'd like to congratulate you, Mr. Kizak, on your re-election to the board this past November, and to the board as a whole. Wishing everybody well in 2024, and hope we continue to make progress here in Middletown Township. I have 4 interrelated things that I'd like to comment on tonight, and I'll make sort of apologies, I guess. 2 of them are pretty much old news, water under the dam, so to speak. The other 2 are more recent and were discussed within the last 3 board meetings, I think. However, you scheduled your board meetings on the same night that I was preoccupied upstairs at another meeting, so wasn't able to get down and speak on these. All of them relate to traffic issues with all of the approval of buildings and businesses and whatnot that are coming to fruition here in Middletown Township. The first of the old news ones is taking a look at the Oxford Valley apartments, Oxford Valley Mall apartments. As we see them being erected and realizing, in my mind at least, that they are much larger than even I anticipated, although I know the number was supposed to be like 600 units apparently. I recall two different traffic experts speaking to us here before the board and indicating that they didn't really believe that there would be a whole lot of impact on traffic in that area due to the numerous entrances and exits to the mall. I look at 600 units and I personally see probably 2 cars per unit, and I can't imagine how 1,200 cars can possibly have an impact on that area and coming in and out of the mall. But that's obviously underway, and there's not much that could be done about that. The other old news thing is the warehouses that have been approved behind Reedman Toll property. The thing that strikes me there is when their traffic expert came up and spoke before the board, indicating that there would be little impact on the traffic on that road. I remember that person standing here and saying they did not know who the tenants were going to be. And I don't know how a traffic expert can express the impact of traffic, excuse me, if they don't even know who's going to be taking over the warehouses. And at that time, they didn't know. I don't know if we know today or not, but that kind of thing just sort of surprises me. In a more current nature, something was discussed, I believe it was at the last board meeting, that came up for the property at the corner of Frosty Hollow and 413. That one has not yet been approved, if I understand correctly. In fact, I think they're going before the zoning board again tomorrow night, I think. But they're looking for a variance that would cut the number of parking spaces, among other things, I guess, but would cut the number of parking spaces necessary roughly in half from what the township would normally require. And their proposed solution to the less parking but potentially more people was to perhaps make use of one of 2 churches that are nearby. To me, that would be a disaster waiting to happen. One of the churches is on Frosty Hollow. That would require people walking from the church to the property along Frosty Hollow Road, where there are no shoulders and there are no sidewalks. And I can't imagine that occurring in the evening hours and the traffic that's up and down that road. The other church is sort of diagonally located to the property at the corner of 413 and Frosty Hollow, diagonally. That would require people walking across 2 major roads. Yes, there are signals there, but not everybody in the world obeys signals that closely all the time. Again, to me, that'd be a disaster waiting to happen. And since this particular thing has not yet been approved, to my knowledge, I hope that there's some extra thought given to that and in their proposal. It struck me there that their speaker, I believe is, if I got it right, his name was Beck, I think, or something like that, something similar to that. And he indicated that he's not familiar with the area. So again, that just seems somewhat strange to me that we might approve things like that. He's not familiar with the area. 2 other traffic experts didn't know who the tenants were going to be behind Reedman Toll. And it just seems kind of strange to me that we would approve these kinds of things when there's that kind of question involved. The final thing I wanted to mention is Chick-fil-A. Obviously, that's been approved. As far as I know, that's all said and done. It kind of strikes me strange there. I don't know why Chick-fil-A wouldn't have been required to create their own entrance and exit onto Route 1, especially since they're going to demolish Ruby Tuesday, start from scratch, basically. Seems to me as though it would be fairly easy to create their own entrance and exit rather than using the one into and out of Lowe's. I know that I read somewhere that they intended to have somebody who would, for 30 days, study the cars coming and going once the place is there and built and open. I can save them that time, and I can tell them from personal experience numerous times, leaving Lowe's is sometimes not a picnic. The way the 2 exit lanes are arranged, where the left lane is left turn and straight ahead, and the right lane is right turn only, I have seen time and time and time again, there's almost no one who uses the right turn lane. And the left turn and straight ahead into the Redner Shopping Center is obviously the busiest one then. And people who want to go straight ahead, which happens to be me normally when I'm coming home, sometimes have to sit through it. If you're talking about a weekend or maybe the middle of summer and spring and whatnot, you might have to sit through 1 or 2 light changes just to get across, unless that's because the left turners are waiting for people coming out of the Redner Shopping Center. The only alternative is for people like myself, and with the police department sitting behind me, I won't admit to doing this, but people like myself would have to go into the right turn only lane and go straight across, which isn't the best and safest thing to do, but sometimes it's almost the only way out of there. Chick-fil-A is proudly announcing that they'll have enough to queue up 44 cars, I believe that was the number, with the possibility, if necessary, of doubling that by using the existing parking lot and zigzagging them through that parking lot. I cannot imagine 44 to 88 cars being added to the number of people coming and going out of the Lowe's Shopping Center. I know that that's already been decided, but I'm not sure, again, why they couldn't have been held to creating their own entrance and exit out of the new location, since they're going to start from scratch. I'd like to end that with actually a suggestion. I'm just a person who sees it and lives it, and I'm not an expert by any means, but perhaps to Mr. Valla and the Traffic Commission, I don't know if it's conceivable to flip those 2 lanes leaving Lowe's, where the left lane is left turn only, and the right lane, which almost never gets used, would be straight across and right turn. Most people who leave and are going to make a right go to the other end by the bank because it is right turn only. To me, that would help things, especially for those of us who are just going to Lowe's for a bag of mulch or something and then trying to get home from there and going straight across. So it's just some comments about the whole idea behind the building and the approvals and whatnot. Some of the things that strike at least myself as being a little unusual, and I suspect maybe other members of the township, residents of the township, would feel the same way. So I'd like you to consider that for future decisions. And like I said, the corner of Frosty Hollow and 413, as far as I know, has not yet been approved. So I'd like you to really think about that, especially with, I can't imagine people walking up and down those 2 roads trying to get in and out of this place. So I thank you for the time, and hopefully, something might happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Post. Certainly appreciate your input and your comments. You are correct. The Oxford Valley Mall apartments, the warehouses that you referred to, and the Chick-fil-A are all projects that have already gone through the approval stage. But certainly, we always welcome input and feedback on traffic issues in the township, and those are always things we can continue to look at and always will look at. And that is one of the goals of the Citizens Traffic Commission. So we do appreciate the feedback. With respect to I think you're referring to the 1301 Frosty Hollow Road. I think that is scheduled to be the zoning hearing board. Their meeting is Wednesday, so certainly feel free to attend that meeting to the extent you can. But that one has not yet come before this board. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Is there any other public comment on non-agenda items? Yep. You can just come up and state your name and address, ma'am.
You want my name and address?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Beth Ann Pollock, glad to be here. I'm at 22 Fir Tree Road in Forsythia Gate. I'd like to bring up 2 items. First of all, on Trenton Road, right near Hartwood Road that leads out of Highland Park, I believe there's 12 tree stumps there, and it's very unsightly. I was informed that the trees might have been diseased and they had to cut them down. And what I would like to suggest is that spring will be here soon, and instead of letting the 12 tree stumps, which is very unsightly, instead of having them remain the way they are, with spring coming up, maybe you could plant flowers, or maybe shrubs would be more practical, but it would really be a nice thing, especially you know, for the people of Highland Park and the people on Trenton Road, instead of seeing these 12 tree stumps, which looks awful, you could plant shrubs there. You know, spring is a wonderful time to be planting shrubs and greenery and all that. So I'd like to suggest, with the opportunity of spring being here in a couple months, that the tree stumps could be removed on Trenton Road, right near Hartwood Road, which is the main thoroughfare in Highland Park, that, you know, they could have shrubs or something that would look really pleasant, and it would really be a wonderful thing, especially when people are in their cars waiting at the traffic light coming out of Hartwood Road to Trenton Road. I'm sure everybody would just love to see some nice greenery there. And then the second thing is, I just spoke to Eric Gartenmeyer before the meeting, and the little road leading from the Target parking lot into the jug handle, Eric and I worked on getting signs put up saying no left turn, because some people coming out of Target who are unfamiliar with the area, they have this little road coming in, a little road leading from the Target parking lot to the jug handle. And the way it is now, I think, Eric and I worked, I think they had 3 signs put up. A stop sign, a sign with a left arrow with a slash through it. I forget exactly, but it was great. And then all of a sudden, they weren't there. And look, this little road from the parking lot of Target to the jug handle, it's not a country road. So the sign that's up there is is not the right sign. That would be fine if it was a country road, but this is a major jug handle, and they really should have the 3 signs that were up there briefly. They should really be up there again, because somebody unfamiliar with the area, if there wasn't a lot of traffic on the jug handle, they might think, oh, Route 1 is right there to the left. Why don't we make a left-hand turn onto Route 1? And if a car was coming into the jug handle, there's a head-on collision that could be deadly. And Eric said that it's to contact either PennDOT or the Target Center. I don't understand these signs. It was great. And all of a sudden, they're not there anymore. They're only there for a couple months. So that's my second request, that the signs be put up again to avoid a possible very serious traffic accident. So those are the 2 things I wanted to mention, and thank you for listening.
No, thank you for bringing both of those issues to our attention. We'll definitely look into both the stumps situation at on Trenton Road, and the signs at Target, and see what we can do.
When is the meeting in February here? What date?
The next meeting is February 5th, 7 p.m.
All right. Well, if I come back to the meeting in February, do you think it would be worthwhile to come back and get some answers that maybe PennDOT or Target Center had been contacted to see if, you know, if they would be willing to put the signs back, which was really the most common sense solution. I mean, Eric and I worked on having the 3 signs up.
So here's what we'll do. We're going to try to look into both of these issues before the next meeting. We can certainly be in contact with you directly to talk about that if we get any resolution one way or the other before the next meeting. You're always, of course, welcome to come to any public meeting to be heard. And we try very hard when a resident comes and brings an issue to our attention at a meeting during public comment. Obviously, we didn't have a heads up that you'd be bringing these issues to our attention, so we're not really prepared to address any of them directly. But we try to, by the next meeting, to the extent we can, at least have, you know, some more information and answers. So,
Well, after the meeting, do you want me to give you guys my phone number so you can contact me? And
I have it.
actually, Mr. Gartenmeyer has it as well. So we know how to get a hold of you. So we can certainly keep you posted on both of these things.
all right, well, I'll try to come to the meeting February 5th, and maybe by that time, because especially, I mean, the tree stump situation, that's not immediate, but the 3 signs that were put up, that's something that's urgent, because that's just an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, thanks a
so much.
lot.
Any other public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move on to consent agenda items. They are as follows. Item A, consideration of authorizing payment of January 8, 2024 bills list in the amount of $2,832,345.05. Item B, consideration of approving the January 2, 2024 minutes of the public meeting of the Middletown Township Board of Supervisors. Item C, consideration of reapproving payment certificate number 1 for the CDBG ADA Ramp Project to NJS Concrete LLC in the amount of $232,696.10. Item D, consideration of approving payment certificate number 2 for the DPW Phase 1 Winter Operations Project to Scott Building Corporation in the amount of $218,222.48. Item E, consideration of approving financial security release number 2 for the Pennswood Village additions in the amount of $248,440.23. And finally, item F, consideration of approving financial security release number 3 for the Pennswood Village additions in the amount of $373,266. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
Make a motion to approve all consent agenda items as stated.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. There's been a motion and a second. Are there any board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Next on the agenda, item number 7, consideration of approving change order number 1 for the DPW Phase 1 Winter Operations Project. Mr. Kessler? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Supervisors, before you tonight is a change order number 1 for Phase 1A Winter Operations. This is the project at the Public Works Yard for the replacement of the old salt barn with a new salt barn, as well as a new brine building, really all the winter operation activity that the yard does for all the storms and things like that that come through the winter. This will consolidate all that. It's under construction, well underway. It's kind of tucked into the yard there, so I did want to just explain kind of the progress of the project and then what came about to this change order. It's a large project, as you know, one of the larger capital projects we've had recently, which unfortunately also kind of bleeds into when there is a change, it's on a larger scale as well. The subsurface of the area that's the new barn, and you can see the aerial here that existed before, has the old salt barn, that's the circular structure there from above. All the area to the kind of left of that was used for vehicle storage of old vehicles, as well as an old kennel that was in that area. It was paved. That area was developed in the early 1970s. The historical review of that didn't suggest really anything out of the ordinary beneath the surface. It's not too far from the creek. But as excavation started for the new salt barn area, the subsurface was uncovered to be quite unsuitable. Some of the area there, you can see the old salt barn that was completely removed to the right, or some of the photos from the construction from a few weeks back. So that area all was cleared out and excavation started. The area of the new salt barn is a large one. It's much larger than the old one, more appropriate for the township's winter operations. 95 feet by about 72 feet is the dimensions of the new one. And just to show kind of what was uncovered down there, you can see kind of the tree trunks on the upper right there, about 3 feet diameter. A lot of stuff buried in that area of the yard, unfortunately, in the early 1970s. That wasn't, I guess, too uncommon sometimes for fill. Also, just kind of junk fill, to choose the most, I guess, PG word for it, of that area of the yard. So long story short, it's not suitable to build a new salt barn on top. The image to the left there shows the area of the new barn that's going up. The center area is the floor area. The green is the footings for the structure walls. And then the orange color is about a 2-foot perimeter around those footings. So what we did to try to determine how to fix the issue was to meet with the contractor, Scott Contractors, our team, along with our geotech department lead. Scott Contractors utilizes earth engineering, their geotech, and we determined a couple of options how to fix the issue. One could be that you just take all the dirt out and put in good dirt to build upon. That costs an exorbitant amount of money to remove that amount of dirt. Other options looked at some pier footings. The third one, which is the preferred one, the one recommended, is to install the footings and a 2-foot width outside of that, all the way down to firm ground. Obviously, that's the most important part. The area of the floor, being a salt barn, is basically an open floor. You have salt in there in the vehicles, but overall, if it settles a little bit, that can be repaired over time. And what we determined with the geotech was that the concrete slab that was originally designed could be replaced with an asphalt, thick asphalt section, which would be a preferred floor to have in there, as well as allow a little bit of differential settlement better over time compared to having it one solid floor throughout the structure. As mentioned, it's not a simple cost. It adds up to quite a bit, but by switching it from the concrete slab to asphalt, as well as determine that option number 3, the cost with the change order tonight are the ones before you. The soil work totals up to about $352,000. That's change order 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7, those items. That's the remediation to create basically a crust that's built upon where the floor is. That's done with crushed concrete and other things kind of mixed in, but you don't have to remove all the soil. The removal of the concrete slab option reduces the contract, so it saves $265,280. The asphalt floor costs $112,000 for that area. So switching the concrete to the asphalt is a negative $153,280, which we wanted to make sure we had the most economical approach that worked as well. Also included with the change order is an allowance for the geotech, the earth engineering firm with the contractor, just to be involved with that process of building the footings. And what that does, if it's needed, it's an allowance, so if it's not used, it's not spent. But if it's needed, they can determine that it doesn't have to go to quite as far of a depth that's originally thought with the numbers here for the cubic yardage. If that's the case, it would be less installed and less paid when it's complete. Also included and kind of separate from the barn but adjacent, the Lower Bucks County Municipal Authority has directed the township that they require now a meter pit outside the new brine building. What that means as far as the cost of the project is that there's just some additional piping that goes in and out of that meter. That is the last item in the change order, which is $11,700. So long story short, for the structural barn to be secure and safe for the long term, as well as the item for the meter pit, the total change order requested is $225,416. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I did want to give some background and a little bit of how the numbers came about for what you see before you.
And that cost includes backing out the cost that we would have incurred for the concrete slab, which we're no longer doing, right?
That's correct.
So the net increase is $225.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously unfortunate. I mean, this isn't anything that anybody wants to encounter, but at least from my perspective, the winter operations project and the salt barn are it's an essential project for our public works department. So I don't see that we have any choice at this point but to take on this additional work in order to make sure we have a stable and suitable building surface. I appreciate your effort to consider multiple options and find one that is safe and suitable, but also cost-effective, relatively speaking. But if any other supervisors have questions, please feel free.
Yeah, no, thank you for all your efforts at trying to get, the prices as economical as possible. Knowing, our budget's pretty tight this year, are there any potential changes we could make to the full project that could help to offset some of this? Have we looked at that?
We did, and there's some other allowances that are part of the contract. So as I mentioned with their geotech one, with this footing work, if it's not needed, that's not used, and that's a reduction towards the end. There's paving of the area of kind of the overall project towards the end, and we can look at, some adjustment to that if it makes sense. I will say that as far as, with this change order, basically unforeseen subsurface conditions with those buried trees and whatnot. Everything else from here on out is going vertical. We don't anticipate anything, unforeseen in that manner. But we can definitely look at the tail end of the project if there's an opportunity to adjust anything. And as mentioned, the contract does, for some of those items, include hopefully some reductions when they come to the end.
You may have said this, and if you did, I apologize. Do we know, from a time standpoint, how much this is likely to delay completion of the project?
This change order does mention kind of extension of the end of the contract date. If you recall, when this was bid and awarded, originally it was thought that it would start kind of after a winter and then be done before the next winter. A few factors kind of changed when that got going, but the contract now, we're looking to have substantially, if not completely done by the end of April. The timeline still will allow kind of the yard to reorientate itself and be, prepped for the hopefully summer and then going into the next winter season. So as far as a delay to the overall project from what was originally expected, there'll be probably a few weeks. They say by the end of January they should have the kind of the soil area reestablished to start building up again. But the contractor is interested to keeping it moving as quickly as possible too, because they have materials coming in for that salt barn that they want to start going vertical. So it doesn't actually add too many days to the overall contract work.
Good, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Kessler?
No, I just wanted to thank Mr. Kessler and Mr. Gartenmeyer for all their hard work on this. Obviously, this was unexpected and during holiday time, so appreciate you guys putting forth the effort to get this figured out so we can discuss it at this public meeting.
Thank you.
If no other questions, I will accept the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve change order number 1 for the DPW Phase 1A Winter Operations Project.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Corporal. There's been a motion and a second. Are there any board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Kessler.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have consideration of redevelopment authority grant resolutions. And they are as follows. Item A, consideration of approving resolution number 24-01R, accepting a grant from the RDA of Bucks County for police vehicles in the amount of $169,405. Item B, consideration of approving resolution number 24-02R, accepting a grant from the RDA of Bucks County for public works vehicles in the amount of $382,564. Item C, consideration of approving resolution number 24-03R, accepting a grant from the RDA of Bucks County for police license plate readers in the amount of $15,900. And item D, consideration of approving resolution number 24-04R, accepting a grant from the RDA of Bucks County for the Parkland Fire Company thermal imaging cameras in the amount of $15,600. Is there a motion to accept the RDA grant resolutions?
So moved.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been a motion and a second. Any board questions?
Yeah, I just have a question on a couple of them. For the police vehicles, it looks like we had asked for $325,000 to cover 4 vehicles. So have we thought about what options we have? Will we purchase less vehicles, or will that come out of the general budget?
Well, right now, the police department as well as the public works department are attempting to locate vehicles because the supply chain is not as we would hope that it would be. So it wouldn't come out of the general fund. If there was any overage, it would come out of the capital fund.
Okay.
But we will be bringing that to you in one of the upcoming meetings.
Okay, and it looks like we did not get funding for the command vehicle.
Correct.
Okay, so all of those 3 we'll look forward to in future dates if we're going to take it out of the capital fund or not.
The command vehicle, I would say we would be back burnering at this point.
Okay.
The police vehicles will come before you, and the chief, I know, has been working on it. We were actually hoping to have it for tonight, so we'll know when we bring that to you whether we'll be asking for overage, and if so, how much.
Any other board questions? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, there's been a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. Next on the agenda, we have a transportation update from Assistant Manager Nick Valla.
Good evening, everybody. I will be brief with my presentation for the football fans in the room. I just wanted to give a quick overview about some big transportation improvements happening in the township, both being led by us as the township as well as by PennDOT. But first, I just wanted to recognize the Citizens Traffic Commission. I know there was a brief plug for them earlier, but the Traffic Commission has been around for about 5, going on 6 years now. And it's a group of residents supplemented with several township staff, really to address boots on the ground complaints, concerns from the community about various traffic and transportation issues, primarily stop signs, traffic calming, and the like. A couple of things that we've accomplished in the last year, all recommended to the supervisors. As recommended ordinances includes a parking restriction on Briggs Road, commercial vehicle parking, increasing parking violation fines, and adding a couple of stop signs. And I did want to recognize we do have 3 of our 5 volunteer members from the Traffic Commission here in the room, Roland Myers, Bill Everett, and Jeff McCard. And so I just wanted to thank them for all of their hard work as we approach our first meeting of the year, which happens to be tomorrow evening. A couple of projects the township is starting work on, 2 big grant-funded projects, the first being a school zone signal technology grant that we received from PennDOT. We are planning to upgrade all of the school zone signals, which notify drivers to go 15 miles an hour during school hours. Those are going to be updated with not only a speed indicator sign, but most importantly, the ability to control those remotely. And so for days that there's ever a school cancellation or a snow event, or especially during the holidays when those signals are actually set to run on a schedule, there is actually the ability for staff to go in basically from a computer to deactivate those, so that way it's not impeding traffic when it doesn't need to. So there is a $300,000 grant which will supplement a good chunk of that project. Second is probably one of the projects that is going to have the greatest impact, even though you won't be able to see it. So there's 6 traffic signals, and there's a map here, but for those who may not be able to see it, everything from the Maple Avenue Wheeler Way signal, which is kind of near the post office, going all the way up Maple Avenue and North Flowers Mill, where it dead ends at Langhorne Yardley and Winchester. All 6 of those traffic signals are going to get updated technology. So the equipment, what you see at the intersection, isn't necessarily going to change, but the technology in the box is going to change, which is going to allow for greater traffic flow in that whole corridor, which should have a pretty sizable impact. And again, that is a grant-funded project, again, thanks to PennDOT. And both of those grant-funded projects we expect to unfold probably around fall, winter of this year. Last one, which we are planning to move forward with later this year, is installation of a pedestrian crossing signal near Langhorne Yardley Road and Maple Point Drive. There is an existing one down by Community Park. There's a couple, there's one, additional going in closer to Maple Point Middle School, so this one would be kind of right in the middle of the two to improve that existing crosswalk from the Maple Point development and connecting to that existing trail across the street. And again, we expect that to unfold later this year, and there is a grant application submitted for this project already. 2 really big PennDOT projects that are coming down the pipe really fast, actually. They have both been underway in the planning phase for quite some time. And I actually do have our traffic engineer, Steve Gozer, here from TPD, who can address some additional questions. The first one we've probably heard the most about for the longest here is improvements to Langhorne Yardley Road. So this begins at Bridgetown Pike and ends at Woodburn Road. Essentially, the long and the short, the Bridgetown Pike intersection, the signal is going to be going away and replaced with a roundabout. And at Woodburn Road, the road is going to get straightened on the northern approach, the Core Creek side, which should lead to a safer approach for motorists, as well as some widening to accommodate some dedicated turn lanes, and as well as some additional pedestrian and stormwater management improvements. We expect this to begin very shortly. It's actually being let by PennDOT currently, so they're looking for a contractor to do the project, and we expect it to get under construction probably in the next couple of months. There's some additional information available on PennDOT's website. I have kind of the short name of it available there on the slide for anyone who wants to learn some more about it from PennDOT. So here, just kind of an overview of some of the plans. And again, this is the Bridgetown side, so you see a little bit of a shift to the road on Bridgetown Pike approaching the intersection, obviously the installation of the roundabout. And on the Woodburn side, you see there straightening of the intersection, so that kind of a diagonal line you see there, kind of that lime green hashed out color is the existing roadway, and so you're going to see it straightened heading towards Core Creek Park a little bit, which should make it a little bit of a safer approach for people at the intersection. The second project, which we haven't talked a whole lot about in this body, but it's been hitting the media a little bit, is improvements to Oxford Valley Road and Business Route 1. So it's on the Falls Township border, which is partially why we haven't talked about it quite as much. It's not as much in our locale, but it's certainly going to be impactful to residents who traverse that area. Essentially, there's going to be some widening specifically at the Business Route 1 intersection. And something that people have long sought after is the straightening and signalization of the very interesting kind of rolling left turn, if you will, in front of the Wawa. There's actually going to be a signal installed there. So that's kind of the overall project area. And again, there's information available directly from PennDOT. They're going to be the ones overseeing the construction. And so that's the total project map there. Can zoom in a little bit onto the two intersections. So on the left, you see the intersection, which is Lincoln Plaza, is going to be to your northwest. So there's some widening and accommodating actually a double left turn lane from all approaches. And then on the right, you see there is the intersection that's currently in front of Wawa. It's actually going to be moving further into Falls Township, technically speaking, with the traffic signal added there for some much needed safety improvements. Happy to answer any additional questions, any of the more technical questions. I'll defer to Steve from TPD, but we felt it was very valuable and timely to share those updates with the community.
Thank you, Mr. Valla, and thank you to the members of the Citizens Traffic Commission, and thank you for being here tonight. When this committee was first conceived back in 2018, we had high hopes that it would be an active and robust addition to the community, and our expectations have been exceeded. I mean, the work that this committee has done and the changes and improvements that they have made have just been unbelievable. And it's something what we didn't have before, but sorely needed, was a place for these issues to go and be addressed. And so I can't be more pleased with the work that your committee has done. So I can't thank all of you enough for everything you've done, and Mr. Valla for being a leader on that committee. Thank you so much. I'm incredibly excited about all of these projects. I don't know if other people get excited about this stuff like I do. I mean, I probably travel every one of these intersections on a regular basis. So, and I get asked by residents all the time about every single one of these things. So, really excited that all these things are getting off the ground. People are, dying to know when the Bridgetown Woodburn project is finally going to get off the ground. So hearing that we're looking like we're almost there is great news. And I just want to thank you, Mr. Valla, and anybody else, township staff who was involved in all the effort to get grant funding for these projects. I mean, that is what makes all of this possible, is that we can get so much grant funding. And so thanks for all your hard work and effort to make that possible. I don't know if any other board members have questions for Mr. Valla.
Yeah, I was actually just wondering, knowing these are really two large intersections, do we have any insight into what this is going to look like during construction? Are they going to be closed? Is it going to be minimized? Just to give residents an insight into what they're going to, during construction, what they're going to look at. Also knowing that our EMS and fire is located, one of our stations is located right in between those two.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, yeah, there's going to be phase 1 and phase 2, so that way it won't be, a big cluster all at once. But yes, this will be the first part, and this will be the second part. And there will be like a detour plan, a detour analysis, and everything that will be posted. So the residents, when they're driving, will be notified, what roads are closed and what will be done, where they can turn and where they cannot turn. And if you go to the second plan, this is still, I guess, not really an alternative phase, but it's not final design yet. So there is going to be a big detour associated with this project as well that we have been, coordinating with PennDOT and Pannoni is the design engineer for this project. So there are some things along Oxford Valley Road and Trenton Road that we're still trying to narrow down and figure out with both of those agencies. But again, that will be posted and the public will be notified, before and well in advance of which roads will be closed and where they can maneuver during that time period.
Great.
The detour plan for the Langhorne Yardley Road project is posted to PennDOT's website, and residents are encouraged to see the same page for the Oxford Valley Road site when that detour plan is finalized.
That's great. And do we anticipate that the Langhorne Yardley will be finished construction before or after the elementary school opens? I think they're planning.
As of right now, I believe that is, I think it's 20, I'm not sure how it's going to line up.
There's going to be an overlap.
But
You
yeah,
know there's
it's-
going to be an overlap.
Okay. And are they still contemplating that additional light on Woodburn Road at the intersection? Because I don't think I saw it on that plan.
Where, do you know? approximately?
The entrance out to Woodburn from the elementary school.
Yes,
or Maple Point.
that is going to be
Okay,
there.
that's still
Yes.
there. Okay.
Yes.
What kind of time frame are they looking at for the Oxford Valley project? I know it's a huge project. But.
Yeah, I believe, let me pull it up.
I can grab you, Steve. I failed to mention, they're expecting it to be about a year behind the Langhorne Yardley Road project, so starting construction probably early spring or so of '25, running through fall end of the construction season of 2026. So both projects are a 2-year construction season.
Will we be posting these on our website, these images?
Yes, absolutely. We have a
And
link
updates.
currently to the Langhorne Yardley Road project on PennDOT's site from our site, and we could certainly do the same for Oxford Valley Road.
Can we update them as they are progressing as well?
Yeah, we actually link directly to PennDOT site since PennDOT is managing the construction. So we'll make sure that those are constantly live.
Thank you.
And to follow up on Supervisor Kane's question, emergency services are well aware and have been part of the process. They know what's coming down the road and have been notified and involved.
To Ms. Hannah's point, we should also try to put some stuff out on social media, make sure people are aware of not only of the projects, but the timetable for the projects, because we get a lot of questions about all of these things.
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
Do we know how this is going to be timed with the Route 1 project as well?
The RC3 improvements, we are still waiting on the updated plans from PennDOT for RC3, but both projects aren't directly in that impact zone, so we don't expect these projects to have a direct impact to RC3.
That's going to be later.
That's what I thought. I just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify. in
These
case
projects will
anyone-
probably be done by the time RC3 is getting started.
Yes, that's correct.
Fair enough.
Any other questions for Mr. Valla or our traffic engineer? No? Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valla. Okay, that brings us to other business. Mr. Kessler.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Valla.
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Esposito.
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Teoli-Cools.
Also nothing, thank you.
Ms. Kane.
Nothing further.
Ms. Corporal.
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Payne.
I just wanted to thank Dakota Yates for coming and singing the national anthem, and to the CTC members who are in the audience. I heard you guys have a meeting tomorrow, so thank you for coming today and tomorrow. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. And Ms. Hannah.
I have nothing.
And I have nothing, so I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We're adjourned. Thank you.